Over the years and through the different stages of our lives as Nigerians in the 21st century, as Nigerians from the 20th century when the amalgamation happened in 1914, down up until our current day, we've heard a whole lot of stuff as it concerns divisions on different fronts, division due to tribal leanings, division due to our religious standings, and different understanding and the different things that we get to make up for this. But sometimes it looks as though we have come to accept our current situation and our current fate as it concerns the way we currently are. And if you look closely to our current situation, you come to see that we are more divided in the 21st century as opposed to what we ordinarily were supposed to do. More divided than we have been before. The answers are not far-fetched. The answers are things we know about. The answers are things we ordinarily should come to recognize. The answers are things we have one way or the other come to ignore over the years, and what this has caused for us remain very, very devastating, remains very, very alarming for us to get to look at as a people, for us to get to look at the ways we ordinarily should go forward as opposed to the ways in which we've come to tell ourselves that our lives down here ordinarily can be, and how we have come to accept it down here in the present moment going into the future. The concerns are many. You find people fighting for their tribal leanings, and you find politicians wielding this power, this strong stuff. A thing that should ordinarily bring us together, unite us, and give us a sense in our diversity. Yet we have allowed our diversity drive us further apart, and through it and through the ways in which we've come to respond to it, and in which we've come to accept our current situation, we've come to find ourselves in very dear, challenging situations. And it is not far-fetched. It's a thing we must look at if we ordinarily want to function well, if we ordinarily want to grow as a people. And we can continue talking and talking and talking unless we really look at what we must supposed to do as opposed to what we are doing. We will continue to languish and we will continue to go down here. Dike Chukwumerije reminds us in his poem The Wall and the Breach that if a white man turns and calls me nigger, my blood would boil in righteous anger, for the evil of discrimination is clearly established, where a white man tries to treat me like rubbish. But if Hausas say Igbos are greedy and crude, and Igbos say Hausas are haughty and rude, and Ijo says Ishekiri must die today, and Ezas tells Izilo there is no other way. If Yorubas declare it is Awu or nothing, and we use federal character to share everything, so before you can even smile and tell me welcome, you must first ask me where my father is from. If those who were settlers but now indigent say those who were settlers can turn indigent, while our constitution says we are all citizens, local governments keep issuing certificates of origin. If my brother passed JAM but cannot go to uni because he is thief and he is not Kanuri, and Unimed has a quota for its catchment area, so he must go back to Benue or wait one more year. If it's okay to say it's not okay to marry someone just because they are Kalabari, and that every tribe must have its own side, are we not then practicing apartheid? If you cannot buy land unless you're a native, and cannot find work unless you're a native, and cannot feel safe unless you're a native, how can we then say we are not primitive? Yet you go to London and get their passport, then settle wherever, however you want. You stand there and fight for equality, but come back and start to use ethnicity. You take a break here and you get to hear Dike continue to guide us through the ways of thinking and the ways in which he has come to lead his life, and how he has come to appreciate his craft, and how he has come to really look at the Nigerian situation And you cannot really understand how on earth we can ordinarily fall so low. Because we do things in our own ways. We want to do things and we want to tell ourselves that we are the ones that know what we are doing and we are the ones that ordinarily should guide our ways and guide our life. But we fail to realize that we are just deceiving ourselves on a large scale. We are just killing ourselves slowly as opposed to uniting in places we ordinarily don't want. You get to look at the different levels upon which Dike touched, and you ask yourself, where have we done things differently as opposed to what the poet and prophet has for us and have come to tell us in recent times into the future. As it is for me, so also is it for Dike, and he continues. So say, I don't get the logic to think it's different, to be tribalistic and then to be racist. If you are happy to judge him just hearing his name, whatever you call it, my friend, it's the same. Where there is no courage to cross this divide, where there is no faith to look deep inside and stop judging accents and surnames and dressing, this fire we are quenching will only keep burning. Which nation can stand dividing its people? How can one build on foundation so brittle? If we cannot see ourselves in each other, our journey ends here. We can go no further. When God made man, he gave him no facial marks. He did not make Bagi, Okun, or Angas. As sure as a white man is just like a black man, no culture is older than being human. This is the truth. Until we accept it, our nation will stumble on its broken feet. For the same things can bind us that drives us apart. For the wall and the breach are both in the heart. For the same thing can bind us that drives us apart. For the wall and the breach are both in the heart. They're both in the heart, my brothers. They're both in the hearts. But we don't really look at that. They're both in our hearts. But yet we'll fail to really come to look at our problems squarely. We've come to fail to look at the ways in which we ordinarily should go. And so we allow our tribal sentiments and leanings down there to get to dictate almost everything we do. And so I ask you, what have you been told about the Hausa man? What have you been told about the Yoruba woman? What have you been told about the Ijaw guy standing across the street? What have you been told about your neighbor and the life such a person is leading? What have you been told about the pains and sorrows of the next person? And how have you responded to such pain and such sorrow? Have you really responded well? Or have you just played sentiment and played deaf ears and told yourself, I don't think I can ordinarily go down there? What have you done to yourself? What should you do to yourself? And how should we ordinarily get to respond to your doings? How have I responded to the Igbo man? How have I responded to the Calabar man? How have I responded to the man from Calabari? How have I respected the man from Obigbo, now known as Oyigbo? How am I interacting with the people of Port Harcourt? A city I still cannot understand why such should ordinarily get to keep such a name. But I still understand why at the same time he still decides to keep the name. Why am I so friendly with the Yoruba person as opposed to the man from Kogi, the man from Ibira, the Ibira man, the man from Boki, the Ogoja man? Why am I at peace with this person as opposed to the man from the Middle East? Why am I so comfortable with this person and not the other person? Why am I living the way I'm living? How am I coping with the sentiments I get to put up, and how does it affect business, and how does it affect all of us? It affects us on a whole lot of level, from giving admission to people to the whole idea of the federal character system and the different things we ordinarily get to not really see and not really look at deeply and squarely. Because many a time we get to think that our lives can flourish and function on the tribal levels and the tribal sentiments we get to put up. But I can tell you for free, it doesn't last for long. It doesn't go on for a very long time before things come crashing and before things come falling apart. It doesn't go far for a very long time before we break apart and we break into our separate ways and we break into our separate shells. It doesn't take so long. It doesn't take so long. I can bet with my chest, I can bet with my full chest and tell you it doesn't take so long. And we've seen it. And our politicians know this for a fact. Our politicians know this more than any other person, any other group of persons in Nigeria, and they exploit this particular terrain and they explore us and they tell us the things we ordinarily don't know we are capable of doing. And they incite this divide and they incite these levels of confusion within our souls and within our body and within our sinew, within the ligaments that ordinarily get to make up our system. It circulates through our bloodstream and we come to accept how different we are, as opposed to how similar. Yes, you can lay claims to how different you are. You are an Igbo man. You're a Yoruba woman. You are a Bira boy. You are a Boki man. You are a Boki girl. You are an Ogoja elder. You are a Calabar. You're a Calabar man. You're a Calabar woman. You are Fulani. But at the current reality and where we find ourselves as Nigerians, are you really Nigerian? Are you really Nigerian? And how can you really function as a Nigerian when you've not even come to accept your current reality? And so you find someone like Dike Chukwumerije asking us about the Nigerian dream, asking us about where is my own president?
Every time I ask, people tell me Nigeria became independent in 1960. And furthermore, to show she was truly free, she became a republic in 63, meaning the Queen was no longer head of state, meaning that we were now masters of our fate, meaning that power over Nigerians could now only be held by a Nigerian. It was why we sang and danced in the night, why we lit fires that burned through the night, why we chose a flag colored in freedom, for now we would be kings in this our kingdom. But our first head of state was Igbo, and the next, though a soldier, also Igbo. Then Angas ruled, followed by Hausa, and then came the turn of Yoruba. Then Hausa came back for a term cut short, when power was taken by an Hausa gunshot. Then Gwari claimed his turn to rule, but a mandate stolen was his downfall. Then Kanuri came, and it's quite probable that he'll still be ruling if not for that apple. Then Yoruba returned, not once, but twice. Then Hausa returned, but died in peace. Then he left us a while to worry and wonder. When it was over, Ijo had power, and after him came that titanic shift, and now we can see that Hausa is back, leaving me with this troublesome thought: where in all this is my own president?
Asking us questions we ordinarily cannot answer.
For where I was born is not where I'm from, and where I'm from is not my home. So when the tribes gather, I often wonder, who will I fight when you're both my brothers? Nobody asked when we were children, before we play, are you a Muslim? We shared a space that nobody claimed, but now you ask me to choose a side. When we were students, nobody asked if North and South could share a desk, if East and West could study together, but now you tell me that I'm a stranger. Stranger, yes, to these ways of thinking that tribe is everything. The Niger and Benue, they meet in my hand. I'm not an indigent, but this is my land. And this is my language. I speak nothing else. My home is here. I know nothing else. My tribe is my nation. I am nothing else. And this is my country. I have nowhere else. And so, though people are quick to assure me, to tell me this country I live in is free, deep in my heart, I know that freedom, my freedom, is yet to come. When no one will question my origin, when no one will call me a non-indigent, when no one will kill me because of my faith, when no one will cheat me because of my state, when my state will be wherever I live and will change whenever I choose to move, the day I find not a Nigerian president, but that a Nigerian is finally president. And so, while the flag of ethnicity still flutters over this land of two shining rivers, and the tribes take their turn to misgovern my country, I look to the future, for I'm not yet free.
Where indeed is the president of Nigeria who is Nigerian? When was the last time you really came to meet that guy? The Nigerian president, who is not just from another tribe, representing his people or her people, We've not even had a female president yet, so let's leave the idea of a woman for another day. All the guys, all the men who have passed through at one point in time or the other as a Nigerian head of state, or what we currently have, a Nigerian head of state or president, what have they really done? Have they come with their tribe? Have they come to really put their tribe forward? Or have they come really to tell themselves that, I am a Nigerian and I want to lead Nigeria. I want to lead you. I want to be your president. I want to govern this country with you, and I want you to work with me side by side. I want us to do these things together because I believe we can ordinarily do these things together. When was the last time you saw somebody come up that way? We don't even want to start on religion. Let's start from the place we claim to all come from. The different villages and the different towns and the different metropolis we get to find ourselves, and we get to call home, and we get to call our village, and we get to call our place of origin. While it's not a problem to get to say this and say this with all your chest, how has that particular place you come from affected your relationship with people? And what are the stories you've been told? I still ask this question. What are the stories you've been told about the Hausa man? What are the stories you've been told about the Bibio woman? What are the stories you've been told about the person from Ukele? What are the stories you've been told about the Eza? What are the stories you've been told about the person from Izilo? What are the stories you know about the Shekiri man? What are the stories you know about the Calabar man? What are the things you know about the Bekwara? What are the things you know about the Obudu? What about Tiv? What about the person from Kanuri? What are the things you know about these people, about yourself? And no, not just know, but know in the real sense of the word as the truth. Not as what your father told you, not as what your mother told you, and not as what your grandfather told you. Not as these things that ordinarily leave us divided on many fronts. What are the things you know for real as a Nigerian, and you do them? What are the things you know? What are the things we know? What are the things we ordinarily ought to do that we are not doing? What are the things we must do to get to move forward? Because I don't see why we should be so divided. I understand the sense of tribalism and the ways in which people ordinarily want to go down that particular path, and the tribal sentiments we want to put up with, and different things like this. I understand. There's no doubt about that. But for how long can we continue like this before we find peace within ourselves, before we find joy, before we find progress, before we give ourselves a chance to move forward? When was the last time an appointment wanted to be made in a place like Nigeria, and it was done out of meritocracy, as opposed to the different levels of things we've told ourselves, things like a federal character system, things like catchment area, the different things that get to hold us down? I'm not saying we shouldn't consider the prospect of people who ordinarily come from places of no privilege. I'm not saying we shouldn't consider that when we are granting admission, but why do we even want to do that when ordinarily we can fix the problem? Why will catchment area be so important if the nation ordinarily gets to bring about a teaching curriculum that see to it that all children and all students and all those who are willing to learn one thing or the other come to learn what they ordinarily are supposed to learn, as opposed to depriving them one way or the other from one thing or the other? What are the ways we ordinarily want to go that we at the moment are not doing? What are the ways in which we ordinarily should go and move with our life that we are not doing at the moment, and how should we go about that? As opposed to the current crop of ways in which we just want to do things and we just want to live life and we just think it's all going to be fine here. And sometimes if you even check the stories you've been told critically, and if you check them very on close range, you come to realize that probably the person that told you this story, be it your father or your mother, your brother or your sister, your uncle or your auntie, or even the story your community comes to, there'll be levels of bias down there. There'll be levels of wanting to, tell ourselves things that we ordinarily shouldn't be even telling ourselves in the 21st century, you will find that the situation is not that true. I have friends from the Yoruba axis of the country. I have friends who are Hausas. I have friends who are Fulanis. I have friends who are from Boki. I have friends who are from Ogoja. Ogoja as a place and Ogoja as a region within the Nigerian conversation and the Nigerian topography and geography. I have people from Calabar. I have aunties and uncles living in Calabar. I have people living in different places that I have come to live in peace with. I have Muslims as my friends. I have people practicing the African traditional way of worship as my friends. Be those practicing the religion from the Yoruba axis, or that from the Igbo axis, or that from the Buki axis, or that from the Cameroon axis, or that from the riverine area. I have seen these people, I know these people, I live in peace with these people. I don't see how our levels of tolerance can be tested more than it has already been tested, because we have come to realize, at least amongst the persons I am talking to freely, the fact that we are more similar than we think. Our religious differences shouldn't drive us apart. They shouldn't keep us apart. They shouldn't keep us apart. They shouldn't keep us apart. We ordinarily are supposed to be more closer to ourselves than we want to imagine. Dike comes again with another poem.
Planes falling from the air, bombs exploding here and there, guns, spitting, knives, slitting, ghostly towns with dead men walking, children crying in the night, tires burning pungent, bright, all the land adrifting, chaos as the bad becomes the worse. Yet someone somewhere crying, God, that he come and do his word, send his lightning and his thunder, rip this evil cloud asunder. But the noxious, poisonous tree has its roots in you and me, draws its sap from you and me, while we fit this misery. Someone blames it on the devil. But I've never seen the devil with his pocket full of money meant for everybody, hid beneath the sanctity of a faith, integrity. It was you who took a machete, smoked Igbo and went to market, cut the throats of little children for what crime they were not Muslim. And it was me who picked the gauntlet high on glue and burning hate, stopped a car and picked out Muslims, burned them all to avenge Christians. It was you who put a bomb on, blew a hole in our nation. It was me who put a suit on, went to work and stole the nation. It was you who took my hand. It was us hand in hand, blowing, stealing, bombing, looting. There's no devil in this thing. Just a bunch of little people thinking they can devour other people, steal their peace and keep their own, take their lives and keep their own, keep their land and burn the country when that land is in that country. Thoughtless, mindless, careless people, nothing else, just we the people. So the devil, if he's there, has no need to work hard here. You and me can handle this. You and me can wreck all this. So to God, if you're there, there's no need to come down here. You and me can handle this. You and me can save all this.
Nobody does that. God doesn't come down to do that crime. The devil doesn't come down to do the things we do to ourselves. The divisions we put amongst ourselves due to tribal sentiment and the likes of that are our own making, born out of the ignorance and the laziness in our thinking process and the inability for us to realize that the other person standing across the other side can be our brother, our sister, our mother in the real sense. But at the moment they are not. Still, they ought to be treated like family because they ordinarily are deserving of all the love and support we ordinarily are supposed to get. If you listen to Dolly Parton, you get to hear her talk about when it's family. We put up excuses for our family members. We make excuses for the wrongs they do and the bad things they get to do in their life and the mistakes they get to do. And you tell yourself, oh, my brother is a human. My mother is a woman. My mother is a human. and all those excuses you get to put up with. But when it comes to really looking at your own life and saying, that man that made a mistake could be me. I am also deserving of forgiving. As such a person also is deserving of forgiving. Such a person is also deserving of a second chance. Such a person is also deserving of a chance to ordinarily live and make mistakes. Because if you aren't perfect, why will I be perfect? What gives you this right and this sense of thinking that I am perfect, and yet you are not perfect, and you are deserving of love and mercy and forgiveness, and I am not? A tribal sentiment continues, and we just deceive ourselves on many fronts. What about the religious sentiments and the religious divides? The wars are endless. The idea of ndi CMS, ndi this, ndi that, ndi Catholic, ndi Protestants. Hausas are ordinarily not to be trusted. Fulanis are having plans to get to Islamize the country. As such, they are enemies. As opposed to telling yourself that the fanatics and the extremists are the one at the helm of such plot and such affair. The Catholics want to overtake everybody. The Christians ordinarily are not to be trusted. They came in with their Jesus. They took our gods away. They destroyed our culture. As if that is the truth about the matter. As if that is the case in the first place. We tell ourselves all of these stories. We tell ourselves these things and we put ourselves in boxes and we divide ourselves. And we continue this way. How many persons have come to be liberated from our divides and our divisions and the different ways we ordinarily would have strengthened ourselves but have refused to? How many persons? Can you tell me? Do you know the number? Do you know the number of persons that die every day because of the levels of tribalism we get to display in a place like Nigeria? The idea of bride price, the idea of getting married, the idea of befriending somebody, the idea of asking a girl out, the idea of being in love with a guy. How many of these have come from the place of truth and have been squashed aside and have been left to be relegated to the backside, so that a thing like our tribal sentiments and the different things we tell ourselves about ourselves can ordinarily come to have the forefront of our life and the ways we ordinarily get to do things? For how long are we going to continue deceiving ourselves? Telling ourselves things that ordinarily don't make sense, yet coming to accept these things as the truth of our own life, of our own existence, of our own reality, and how we ordinarily now come to champion our life. How do we vote? How do we vote? If not from tribal sentiments, the majority of us, how do we live life? How do we go forward? How do we push on? How do we grow as a people if we continue doing things the primitive way? Doing things as if we're in the 1920s, as though we were in the Stone Age, barbaric, savage, and all the things you can think about. As opposed to the progress we can get from coming to understand ourselves. It reminds me of the little dialogue between Zeke and Awu. Let us put our differences aside. Awu said. Zeke said, no, we shouldn't do that. Let us come to understand ourselves. Let us come to understand our differences and come to see how we ordinarily can grow. And what a better way to ordinarily get to live life if not from a cosmopolitan angle. And you get to see how this ordinarily would have naturally come from someone like Nnamdi Azikiwe, lived in the north, lived in the west, or come from the east, experiencing life from different angles and telling himself, cosmopolitanism is the way to go. Let the best man be put forward, not the best tribes, not the tribe that stands strong, not that, not the best religion, but the best man. Let the best man be elected for the job. And let us come to understand ourselves. The fightings we fight, they cannot help us. Not today, not tomorrow, not in the future. I don't see how they want to help us. If you know, please tell me. If you know how the problems we are creating for ourselves and for our children, and the whole idea of you're not going to get married to this boy, you're not going to get married to this girl, tell me how. Well, tell me how the different ways we've come to elect our leaders come to help us. Tell me how we've made our friends and how we've kept our boundaries come to help us one way or the other, without actually coming to know, without actually coming to know ourselves really, without actually coming to really love ourselves and coming to even know the truth of the stories we've been told. You've been told the Igbos were betrayed by the Hausas and the Fulanis, and they were betrayed by the Yorubas. But that is the only story you know. As true as that story is, if that's the only story told, it becomes a problem in the long run. Because that is not all there is to the relationship and the history that is the relationship between the East and the North, between the East and the South, between the East and the West. That is not the relationship alone that must be told. The story must be brought out in full, and we ordinarily should come to appreciate and come to look at the stories for what they are, not for what we want them to be. That is what I am saying. That is what I am begging. That is the only way we can come to make sense of life and come to make sense of how things ordinarily are supposed to be, as opposed to how we currently have them. Why does it matter that we are having this conversation? Because of the levels of mistrust that have come from deep-seated tribalism. And the different levels of religious intolerance we've come to experience in our life have left us hanging. It has left us crumbling. It has left us in a place where we cannot even understand ourselves. When was the last time you understood? When was the last time you looked at a Muslim, be it man or woman, as a Christian without trepidation, without fear? When was the last time? Tell me. When was the last time you looked at a traditional worshiper, a traditionally, and you don't get this sense of shiver within you, thanks to Nollywood and thanks to the different things and the different damages they have done down there, telling us that the tribalist is the devil and the Christian pastor is the one who needs to get to deliver them from the shackles of what has held them many years ago, thanks to them and their ancestors worshipping idols. All these things are the stories we get to tell ourselves. How will you feel if I ordinarily look at you in the face and outrightly tell you that your religion is a scam, blatantly, with no need of interrogation, with no need of scholarship, with no need to even look at the situation of the matter? How will you feel? You feel bad, right? That is the same thing we want to do. That is the same thing we try to do with religion. No place for ecumenism, no place for the possibility of dialogue, no place for the room, no place or room for understanding one thing or the other. We just do things the way we do things, and we just go the way we go, and we think our lives can be good that way. I don't think so. I don't believe so. Lives can be better that way. Lives can only be better if we come to understand ourselves and come to do the things necessary for us to ordinarily grow. Else, we crumble together and we die together. Else, we fall apart and we fall apart. We fall apart badly and we fall apart on different levels. That is what we've seen in our times. Haven't we been falling? Haven't we divided ourselves into different fragments? And haven't we gone back to our cocoons and stayed down there supposed to, rather than experiencing the different levels of metamorphosis we ordinarily were supposed to experience, to move from one level to the other and then get to the stage where we can say we are now like a butterfly, and then we are now like butterflies out of our cocoons, and we can now fly and fly and fly tall. As opposed to the reality of our situations down here. How have we weakened our national unity? How have we weakened that? We have weakened our national unity by the different stories we've told ourselves, by the different levels of mistrust we've told ourselves about ourselves, and the ways we ordinarily have gone, how we've sold ourselves, how we've deprived the next person from getting a job, or getting a house, or getting a land, or getting an appointment, or getting a contract, simply because they belong to one community or the other, or they come from a particular place, a particular state, a particular clan, a particular family, a particular religion. Probably they are agnostic, probably they are atheistic, probably they don't even know, or they don't even care. Maybe they are pantheists, maybe they are Christians, maybe they are traditionalists, maybe they are Muslims. For how long do we do these things, and for how long does it come to affect us? And what must we do going forward to see to it that our lives become better, stronger, brighter into the future? Tell me, do you know the problems we create for ourselves when we tell ourselves the things we tell ourselves about ourselves? Do you know how stupid we look when we sell the stories we sell to ourselves and to our children that are not verifiable, that are not true about ourselves? And do you know the dangers we get to? Do you know how stupid we look when we tell ourselves the stories we tell ourselves, and the things we do to ourselves, and the things we do to our children, and the things we do toward the relationship we ordinarily would have fostered? Intermarital affairs that would have taken place and would have taken place into the future. Different connections and different business ideas and different ways of getting to live life that would have been our situation if we ordinarily allow ourselves to get to flourish well and flourish better, as opposed to what we do and as opposed to the things we lie to ourselves and to the different ways we go about living our life down here. Have you asked yourself what could have been done better, that at the moment is not done well, and at the moment should be done well for the future to be bright, for our lives to come to make sense now into the future? Have you looked at Kaduna in recent times? Have you looked at Kaduna in times past? Have you looked at the crises that have evolved in a place like Kano? Have you looked at the type of crises that have come out of a place like Plateau? Have you looked at these places and have you told yourself the truth about the situation of the country? Have you looked at the events going on in Benue State in the last 10 years? Have you looked at the fundamental, have you looked at the extremist moves? Have you looked at extremists such as those propounding the idea of Boko Haram and the different bombings that have taken place in the last 10, 20, in the last 15, 20, in the last 10, 15 years in Nigeria? Have you looked at the persons that have died for God's sake? Have you looked at the life of the family of Deborah and the many persons that lost their life because they were people belonging to a particular faith, and the different levels of injustice and the different levels of inhumane and barbaric attitude and events that took place in their life, and how their lives were cut short simply because you and I, our fathers and our mothers and our brothers and our sisters, cannot come to live together, cannot come to live in peace, cannot come to at least respect themselves to the best of our knowledge, that we can live together and live together in peace. Take, for instance, the life of Deborah, the girl killed in Sokoto. The presidential aspirant even had to delete his tweet condemning the act. Condemning the act, you had to delete your tweet, as though what you said was not true, because probably you wanted to appeal to a particular group of persons or a particular group of voters. Tell me what Deborah would have been today. And if you are here telling me that what happened to Deborah because of how she did her, how she coordinated her life and the things she said. I want you to look at the life of Asia Ali. I want you to look at the life of a woman that has really looked at things from different perspectives. Asia Ali. And the different persons fighting one form of religious bigotry and religious sentiment and religious extremism or the other. And tell me, how on earth can we tell ourselves that we are all fine living in one country and we are comfortable living with the things we currently live with, and we want everybody to be happy with us, and we want everybody to be fine, and we want to live good, and we want to live happy? Tell me you don't know about the IDP camps in a place like Benue State and how people ordinarily in their own country still continue to live in IDP camps. Tell me you don't know about this event, and I will tell you what you're ordinarily supposed to do. Nigeria is a vast crime scene, and we just tend to look the other side probably because it is not our own people yet. Nigeria at the moment is sitting on a time bomb. The souls of those departed from conflicts like those in Kaduna, those in Benue State, those in Plateau, those in Kano, the different riots that have happened in a place like this, ordinarily should leave us in shivers, should leave us in trepidation, should leave us confused, sad, and dying. But yet we don't. We don't look at these things from that particular way. We don't look at these events that way. We just tell ourselves the different things. We tell ourselves and we die. And we die slowly, 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 slowly. When was the last time you looked at your leader and you really saw somebody who ordinarily wants to unite the country? When was the last time you looked at your political party and you saw a thing that can ordinarily get to harmonize the country? When was the last time you tried to educate your own ignorance and you try to tell yourself that thing I was told about the Hausa man necessarily is not true? In fact, it is not true at all. I have just been clinging on to hateful speech and hateful narratives passed down to me by my father, by my mother, and I have just come to tell myself that this indeed is the way to go as opposed to how ordinarily things are supposed to go. When was the last time you looked at your life squarely, categorically, and told yourself that I think I want to come to know and learn about Nigeria? I think I want to come and learn about Africa. I think I want to come to start knowing peoples of the world and coming to appreciate geography and coming to appreciate the different things we ordinarily have failed to do. When was the last time you actually thought about the idea of creating awareness for the different tribal sentiments we put up with and how we ordinarily can come out of that? When was the last time you actually looked at your life and told yourself, I think I want to change, I think I want to grow, I think I want to evolve and do something different? When was the last time we had interfaith forum coming to tell our people to respect one another's religion, to respect the religions of different people as opposed to condemning them and bedeviling them and making them look the ways we want them to look and appear the ways in which we want them to look and appeal to our senses? When was the last time we ordinarily did things right? When was the last time we thought about the idea of unity schools and the progress that can come out of unity schools? Remember those days when people can be roommates from different parts of the world? An Igbo boy from Abia State going to school in Calabar, a boy from Plateau going to school in Calabar, a boy from Akwa Ibom going to school in Calabar, a girl from Nasarawa going to school in Calabar. And then they get to make friends and get to mingle with themselves and get to form union that would outlast, that would outlive their time in university, that would get to see to it that they get to champion their life into the future and get to form formidable bonds and friendships that ordinarily we don't get to hear of in the 21st century. Now we don't get to hear today. Tell me, when was the last time we actually sat down and told ourselves that things like unity schools can ordinarily be brought back? Because when you look at the idea of unity schools, you come to realize that it brings about the rich and the poor together. It brings about this group of persons and they come together to form bonds and they come to form unions that ordinarily would get to see to it that life get to move forward, get to move on, and get to move better, as opposed to the current reality we find ourselves. So we continue to be as divided as never before. Imagine sleeping in the same room for 4 years, for 5 years, even for 1 year or 6 months even, with somebody from Plateau, another person from Jos, one person from Plateau, another person from Cross River, another person from Akwa Ibom, the next person from Lagos, the next person from Ekiti. And you come to know their names, and you come to know their sisters, their brothers, their family members, and you come to grow together. And you come to really tell yourself that, maybe all Yoruba people did the same. Or it is not all Yorubas that are the same. It is not all Igbos that are the same. And you come to tell yourself, maybe every Shekiri man did the same, and stuff like that, as opposed to how things currently are and how things have been allowed to be. Imagine a group of girls growing up and schooling together, going to class, going to their different classes or the classes they get to attend together, and coming back to the same room or to the same apartment or the same neighborhood or to the same compound, getting to live and know each other, coming to experience differences as opposed to what they have been told as it concerns their life now into the future. Imagine all of this and tell yourself that we failed. We have failed ourselves in the 21st century, and it's something we have to accept. We have failed ourselves in the 21st century with the levels of ethnic bigotries and the level of division we have come to champion, and we've come to allow to hold sway in our system. We have betrayed ourselves, and we've betrayed ourselves badly by the levels of religious wars we've come to champion, and the levels of sentiments we've put in, and the levels of falsehood, and the levels of bullshitting we as Nigerians have come to carry on and champion into the future. And we can do better, and we must do better, and we should do better. Else we crumble together. Else we fall together. There's nothing you want to tell me. There's nothing you want to tell me that will not see that we fall together and we crumble together. We would crumble together unless we look at our lives and look at our lives squarely. Tell me how we are not going to fall. Tell me how we want to even develop economically without growing together and standing tall. Tell me how you want to make progress and you alone want to be the engineer, you alone want to be the doctor, you alone want to be the scientist, you alone want to be all the things you ordinarily want to be, as opposed to granting the chance to as many persons that want to be what they want to be within certain states of reason and within the things that are ordinarily legal. Tell me how, when we don't allow these people to be the things they want to be, how we ordinarily can function. You want to be the plumber, you want to be the baker, you want to be the driver, you want to be the chef, you want to be the cook, you want to be the cleaner, you want to be the policeman, the policewoman, or you want only your tribesmen and women to be doctors and lawyers or to get admitted in our universities. You want only your brothers and sisters to be presidents and governors and ministers in the 36 states plus the Federal Capital Territory. You want only your family members to be recognized amongst those that are worthy to ordinarily hold positions in Nigeria. Tell me what you really want to do. Tell me how you really want to see the world go, and tell me how that can happen. Tell me how you want to go to judge, how you want to go to courts and get justice when you ordinarily don't want to allow the next person to be trusted with certain offices within the country. Tell me how you will grant justice to people when they come, when they are not your tribesmen, if you want to continue to be tribalistic. And I would show you how, for a very long time, we as Nigerians have failed ourselves. For a very long time, we as Nigerians have deceived ourselves along the lines of tribal sentiments as opposed to being as civil as possible. You see your brothers and sisters, they carry their bags with their visas on their hands, with their visas. They travel to different countries, and you want them to be treated fairly and to be treated well when they get there. You want them to come to Europe, and you want them to live well in Europe, and you want them to live to America and be treated very fair, be treated fairly in America, in the UK. You want them to go to Asia and with no fear or trepidation of the challenges they are going to face down there. But when they come back home, or when you sit back home, you do a great disservice to not just yourself, but to the entire generation that ordinarily you came from. And we continue with this routine over and over and over again. Have you sat down for 1 minute to think? Have you sat down for 1 minute to think about what would have become of the likes of me and your brothers and your sisters and your uncles and your fathers and your mothers and your aunties when they travel abroad? Have you really come to look at their life and look at the prospect and the promise they carry within themselves? Promises never even made to them openly, but promises that have been made possible by the legal systems and the different things set in place, and how their life ordinarily turn out. Because they go to systems that one way or the other get to recognize the fact that humans should be allowed to think, and humans should be allowed to think well. And humans should be given the chance to live and to live well. What about America? For how long now have blacks been allowed to vote? And for how long have their vote ordinarily counted? For how long did segregation get practiced there? For how long was segregation practiced in the US? And for how long will such stuff be seen here and there in different parts of the world, even in America up until now? For how long will a thing like apartheid be put down? For how long will racism be led to go its own way so that we can flourish together? For how long will the place like the United Nations continue to pretend as though it doesn't know the problems of Africa? For how long will IMF tell themselves that they don't know what is happening in Africa and they don't understand what ordinarily should be done down there? For how long do we want to deceive ourselves that we don't know what is happening and we don't know what we want to do? For how long are we going to fool ourselves, deprive ourselves of the love we ordinarily can get from the different places we ordinarily can get this love, as opposed to just tying ourselves to our little geographical positioning and tell ourselves that this is all there is to life, and making the particular adage that says a child who has not traveled far thinks the mother is the best cook, making the adage plausible, making it a thing ordinary that makes sense, because indeed a child who has not traveled far thinks the mother is the best cook. Sentiments aside, these things are the things I talk about. These things are the things that cause me pain, cause me problem, cause me anger in my soul, in my body, leaves me thinking about how stupid we as a people at the moment are, and how foolish we've come to allow ourselves to be. Tell me how we want to make progress. Tell me how we want to make progress. Tell me how we want to grow. Tell me, and I will tell you how we failed and how we cannot even progress with the current way of doing things and the current ways in which we come to live our lives now into the future. We can talk from today till tomorrow, till next week, till next year. If you don't look at your life and look at your life squarely, you will not see the problem. You will not see the places we ordinarily are supposed to look at. You will not see how the killings would continue and how they can escalate beyond our control in the near future if we don't invest in our civic education and if we don't really invest in inter-community dialogues and intercommunal dialogue and interstate conversations and interfaith dialogues and ecumenism on different fronts. If we don't come to embrace our levels of cosmopolitanism and the fact that certain persons would never be born in their villages, would never be born where their father comes from, and would sometimes not even get to do anything there, if not little. As such, we have to create a forum for them ordinarily to flourish, be it in the north, be it in the south, be it in the west, be it in the east, be it in what we call the middle belt, or what we call the different cardinal points we come to make at the different geopolitical zones we get to have in a place like Nigeria: south, mid-central, northwest, north-central, and the different things we tell ourselves. How on earth are we even surviving with the current situation we have at hand? Because I can tell you for free, it's very, very devastating, to say the least. It breaks people's unity. It breaks us on different fronts, and we don't even see it. It breaks us on different fronts. It breaks us. It breaks us. It breaks us. It divides us more than what was supposed to be done. It divides us. It divides us, my people, and it divides us. It divides us. I don't know what else to say than it divides us. It breaks us. It leaves us shattered. It leaves us crumbling and begging for life and begging for meaning. And we most times don't even recognize the fact that we are being killed. We don't even recognize that we die slowly. And we stay where we are because of a thing like tribalism. It is a very powerful tool that have been employed and have been exploited on different levels of our country's history. And we are here to even start having conversations about the Nigerian Biafra war. A talk for another day. Talk we ordinarily should pay keen attention to. A thing at the moment we have not really looked at. We have not looked at our problems, and we are not even ready looking at our problems. And if you ask Dike once again what we need to do, he will tell you we need a revolution. And in saying that, he will not end there. He will tell you that the revolution has no tribe. And in doing so, he will not end there. He will ask you a question further. Do you not know that poverty is not an Ijaw? He will not spare the rest of us and afflict only the Ishan. He will step over the river and come across the border. So when the drum sounds, let everybody answer. Do you not know that corruption is not from Nekede? He will not hear that Ife had no dealings with Mother Keke. He will wake up all our children at night with hunger. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do you not know that HIV and AIDS is not Kanuri? He will not select his victims and kill only the Fulani. He will set the land ablaze from the Delta to the Sahara. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am an Iroko, when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am an Obeche, when the forest is burning. Our differences will not prevent us from perishing together. Our differences will not prevent us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. What more is there to say? What more is there to say? What more is there to say than to tell ourselves that we are more similar than we think? We are united in suffering, in pain, in poverty, in our lack of basic infrastructure, and our leaders know this thing and they exploit us day in, day out. And they know we should change, but we have refused to change. And so they allow us to wallow in our despondency, to wallow in our stupidity, to wallow in our ignorance, to wallow in the falsehood we've told ourselves, to wallow in the bullshit we've come to allow as our history and our reality. And in doing so, we fall, we crumble, we break down, we go down, and our life will never remain the same. Because one, we have wasted a great chunk of our life in the past. And now into the future, we're still wasting. And the future is yet so uncertain. And when it comes, it will hit us hard. Because we've not allowed ourselves the chance to grow and the chance to stand tall. We need this reminder to ourselves that we are part of the problem. Don't look at the next person and say, you know, I'm not like this. Don't look at the next man and say, oh, this is not my father, this is not my mother, this is not how I am, this is not how we are in our family. No, look at that your sister, the one you are excusing. Look at that your auntie, the one you are giving excuses for. Look at that your father. Look at your father, look at your mother, and look at the jokes they get to crack about the people they call Ofe Manu. Look at the different persons they get to talk about the different things. Look at that person clearly when they say that one or Moibo. Look at the other person when they say me na Moalabi. Look at the other person say that one na Kogi man, na so Kogi people they do. Na so Kogi people they do. Na so they talk. You know all those mimicings we get to do. Look at that person when they say that Ete how far now? Itoro, how you dey now? Look at that girl when they tell you na so Calabar people they knack. The girl like to knack, the girl sabi do. Or how they say it now, opwe. We can continue doing ourselves, the things we do ourselves, but we need change and we need to grow, and we can grow. And growing is a thing we must do together, else we crumble together. I am Biringkpa in the Mecca. I am your brother, the mendicant, strolling this world with you. See you next time. If you do like this video, please like, drop a comment, and share with your loved ones, because it matters. And we're having these conversations. See you next time.